And welcome back to the Sleepless podcast, where I interview people that are much more qualified than me in just about every area. A bit of a return from a bit of a break, and a massive guest today, someone that was very recently part of one of the biggest events in the world, and I'm sure we'll definitely get to it. The goalkeeper for the Australian Hockey Roos took part in the 2016 and 2021 Olympic Games, a dual Commonwealth Games gold medalist in 2010 and 2014, a World Cup silver medalist, 2019 goalkeeper of the year, the most capped goalkeeper in Australian Hockey Roos history, 233, and also, outside of sport, a registered nurse and ambassador for Are You OK Day and Lifeline, and runs her own coaching company, Stomp Goalkeeping, Rachael Lynch.
Thanks for the intro, Jared. That's very kind of you.
That's all right. It's a serious resume, I must say. Like, going through it all is ridiculous.
Well, obviously very proud of my hockey achievements. Asks what I do. I just say I'm a nurse. So that's the main thing I hang my hat on.
No, that's something that we will definitely get to. Like, outside of just sport alone, like, I've had a lot of sort of athletes come in through this and sporting people, but you are not just an athlete. You've had some amazing achievements all throughout your entire life, and over this last year and 18 months with the whole COVID thing, we'll definitely get into. But it is something that is very, very admirable of you that you've started just this whole time while everything's been going on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm pretty passionate about it, and it's my duty within the hockey is to help educate the girls and show them that you can have a dual career and have something outside your sport, because I think it's pretty important. And yeah, we certainly see from other athletes where it can go wrong if you purely define yourself as an athlete. So yeah, keen to discuss it.
Absolutely. As I was saying, you just returned recently from the 2021 Olympics, which I know that I watched. Mm-hmm. I know that just about everyone watched. You only conceded 2 goals in 6 matches. Is that right? I don't know if I've got that right or not.
Yep.
That is ridiculous. Right. That is insane. You just seem to be getting better and better as you go along.
One of them was pretty killer.
You are the first hockey player. You're the first hockey player I've had on the podcast, which is very good for me. I very much like to sort of branch out, and I've started just taking in all these different sports, and it's definitely a sport that I love to watch anyway. I remember just watching pretty much constantly throughout every time it was on TV here in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Good sport.
It's a very good sport. We'll get to your sort of early life and everything now. So you are currently based in Perth, but you were originally born in Warrandyte here in Victoria. Can you explain sort of where that is for the listeners and everything? Because most of them are around sort of me and the sort of environment of Warrandyte and that area.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I actually had an interview yesterday, and they raised the fact that I was from Warrandyte, and they were like, "Oh, you're the most famous person to come out of Warrandyte." And I was like, "Well, no, because Petrarca was from there, from Melbourne Demons." And so that's very topical. Scotty James is from Warrandyte, the snowboarder.
Yes, of course.
So I feel like we're really putting Warrandyte on. Yeah, it's out in the northeast, kind of out towards the sticks, I believe. Fun fact: Warrandyte is one of the most. It's in the top 5 most fire-prone towns in the world. So every year during summer, Mum usually has to evacuate at some point, just because we know that because of the bush and everything, it's pretty hard. But yeah, beautiful town. The Yarra runs through there, the Yarra River. So it's one of those towns that people come to on the weekend, go for a walk with the dog and visit the bakery. Especially, I've lived in the same house my whole life, other than when I've been over here in Perth. So it will always be home. Yeah,
that is awesome. And like, it's one of those towns that, like I said, like I obviously am kind of more in the suburbs, more towards the city, but it's definitely a place that like I want to sort of go to, and just to get away from everything. It sounds like one of those kind of really nice towns anyway.
Yeah, it is.
So obviously growing up in Warrandyte, you through primary school, I believe, is when you sort of started to get into hockey and everything like that. It's one of the more sort of uncommon sports that you get into. What sort of made you decide to pursue hockey as a career and as a sport that you wanted to sort of continue to do growing up?
Yeah, the decision was a little bit out of my hands. I had a PE teacher or teacher in grade 6 who was just super keen on all sports and really encouraging. So she put me into, every sporting opportunity possible. We played softball, t-ball, soccer. Basketball was my main sport at the time. I was playing for a club, and my brother's a basketballer too. And then, in grade 6, I tried out for the state team, for the primary school state team for rugby, soccer, basketball and hockey. And my school had some goalie gear. So I went along to the hockey trial, and I tried out as a field player and a goalie. I'd never played before, but I was like, this, seems pretty fun and kind of cool. So, and out of the four, the one that I was selected in was hockey. So, and they picked me as goalie. So from there, joined a club. Luckily, one of the dads of one of the girls trialing went up to mum and just, asked a few questions, and he was from Greensborough Hockey Club. And with them to this day. So it was kind of a bit funny. Like sometimes I look back and go, well, had they picked me as a goalie, as a field player, would I have made it this far? I don't think I would have. Or had I been picked in the basketball, would I have, scrapped hockey and continued with basketball? So there's always like these sort of turning points, but I still love all different sport, and I can't wait to, once I retire, get back into the basketball and play some other sports without that fear of getting injured.
I was going to say, it's kind of one of those like sliding doors moments where it could have gone in any direction sort of thing. And I had you like, were there any other sports like, so if you weren't going to do hockey, do you think you would have picked another sport like over hockey at the time? Or like, do you think that this is probably the perfect sport that you should have gone into? Or were there any other sports you kind of wanted to go more professional in?
Yeah, well, I mean, with hindsight, I think not just hockey, like goalkeeping specifically is really suited to me. It's a position that's, you need to be sort of agile and have good hand-eye coordination. And I think that combination of different sports that I played has really helped me. I was just like super competitive, had an older brother, we played every single sport you could think of in the backyard. And that's what really allowed me to have that general coordination and athleticism. And that's sort of what's required. And even just my fitness and my body type and things, it's worked well. So as I said, I love basketball. But I don't know. I'm really fortunate, and I feel lucky that decision did happen, because hockey's given me so much. And as much as I would love to have played other sports along the way, you've got to make the leap. And things like snowboarding, I can't wait to go snowboarding, but just couldn't do that while playing because the risk is too high.
That's fair enough, especially with like snowboarding as well, which is one of those sports that I would be terrible at. I've never tried it, but I will be the first to admit I can't balance to save myself. Like I'm fine with I'm okay with like the ball like movement and like hand-eye coordination, but I cannot stand it. Like I can't skateboard, I can barely surf, I can't wakeboard, I can't do any of that kind of stuff. Not a chance.
You can work on it. Come on. Maybe you're at the desk or doing whatever.
I'll try, but I can't say I'm the most coordinated person.
Fair enough.
Yes. You made your international senior team debut with Australia in 2006 in the Champions Cup. How did it sort of feel to finally have your hard work pay off and represent at the highest level of your country, Australia? Like, how did that sort of feel originally?
It was pretty bizarre actually, because at the time I wasn't in the team. So we have a squad, obviously the Australians, and then from that they choose the teams for each tournament. So I wasn't even in the squad, and I got a phone call from the head coach at the time. We played in a tournament earlier in that year, and I played for Northern Territory. So the Australian goalie played for Victoria, so I had to go elsewhere just to get some game time. And I had a pretty good tournament, and afterwards everyone was like talking me up, and we thought maybe this might be my big break. And then the team came out and I wasn't in it. But then, shortly after, there was an injury. One of the goalies did her shoulder, and I got a call up. So I was going to the UK and then on to the Netherlands for this tournament, and I'd be making my debut. So it was pretty cool. Like, it was obviously super scary, but it was a real a moment for me that showed me that elite sport can be quite a sort of selfish pursuit, if you like, because in that moment when I was told I was going away, it was just before the uni holidays, so the June, July holidays where you get 6 weeks off or whatever. And I had so many plans, like, then had to cancel. I was going overseas with my best mate to Thailand. We had our under-21s tournament, so I've been training with the Vic girls for so long. It was my birthday. I had another friend's birthday and I was speaking at it. So it was like, I was super excited and everyone was great and supportive, but I also had to let a whole lot of people down. So, it was a bit of a challenge, but, just so pumped. That's what I'd been working so hard for, and just grateful. For example, my idol, Rachael Lynch, was the other goalie. So someone I'd looked up to my whole career, my debut alongside. So that was pretty special.
That is really cool. And that's the thing with like a lot of sports, especially when you're in like representing like a state or like a country as you are, it's a lot of working together, but it's also a lot of competing as well, where you have to end up competing against players in that same position as you, where you would have had with your goalkeeping, where you would have had to really work hard to then represent your country and work with everyone else, and it's just like it's just games within games basically.
Yeah, it is. It's the dynamic's really interesting, especially with goalies, because the person standing next to you is your teammate, but also get to fulfill your dream. So I'd love if someone ever wanted to do like a PhD or a thesis on it or something, just to explore the mindset, because it's very unique.
Exactly, yeah. And I feel like especially when representing a nation as well, where you've got such like high like hopes, it's something that you pretty much do whatever, and it just comes down to just pure hard work and competition with the people that are next to you basically the whole way through.
Yeah, but it's probably the beauty of team sport as well. Like, you've got to work on those dynamics all the time, have the relationships, and it gets to a point where you need to be able to look at, that if they get in over you, what do you need to do to make sure that doesn't happen next time? And it's nothing personal, because selection is always an opinion and, a coach's choice of what they think is best for the team. But I've been so fortunate to have wonderful relationships with a couple of goalies throughout my career, and I'll treasure that forever, because you just have this sort of level of respect that you might not have with the field players because of that sort of competition.
Exactly. With obviously your international, you won your first international medal in 2009, which was a silver, and you won it in Sydney as well. At like the time when you win a medal, obviously it's a whole different thing to just competing, and especially when you're winning a medal for like your country as well. Like, what is that feeling sort of like to be able to stand on the podium and like hold like a medal up and know that you've done it for your country?
Well, funny story, because that particular tournament, I didn't play a single minute. So I went to Sydney. We got silver. It was pretty amazing, very special tournament. It was close to home, so it was one of the first times we're all, able to come along. So I've got aunties and uncles in Sydney. My brother came, mum and dad, they came up from Melbourne. Anyone who knew me that was family was there. It was a 2-week tournament. And I knew I wouldn't play much because, I was the young one and we wanted to win the tournament. And we slowly went through game by game. And then there was games where it's like, we're winning quite well here. Surely I'll get on. And then other games, it's like, well, this game doesn't matter because of where we're finished. So surely I'll play this one. Went through the whole tournament and didn't get a single minute. A realization for me, I think, I've always had that as a goalie, and there was times where it was like, upsetting, but I was fine. But it was more a bit of an education for my family, because, they were there to watch me. Like, they loved hockey as well, but they were there to watch me. Exactly. And I can handle the disappointment of not being selected, but it was challenging to manage the fact that I was disappointed that my parents and my family had spent all this money to come and watch me. I actually didn't play. I played over 50 games for Australia before my family got to see me play live. So wow. For that reason, because, you'd go on a trip and it's like, it's not worth them spending 10 grand to come and watch because I might not get on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. That's something. And especially with being a goalkeeper as well, because there is only one goalkeeper like for the team sort of thing. And it's going to be so hard to sort of like, and even a lot of times you don't usually like substitute goalkeepers off and on. Usually like the goalkeeper stays. So that's a position where it is very like, who knows what's going to happen kind of thing.
Well, it's cutthroat. You're either in or you're out. Yeah. There's, nowadays there's a bit more sort of fairness that goes on. But generally it's the best goalkeeper will play. And if that's not you, then you just sit on the bench, and it's good. I think good perspective. It teaches you a lot, and something that I really try and instill in the young goalies that I coach is it's like, you will come out of this with a higher level of resilience than the average athlete, because you're going to spend so much time either missing out or having to watch from the sidelines, which, it's all part of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's very like inspiring to be able to like, and then how you've done all that and like you went through the tournament, but then you pushed through and you've become, as I said, the most capped goalkeeper in Australian hockey history.
Thanks, Jared. Yeah, it's I did the maths once. So I've played 233, but I know that I've sat on the bench or missed out on another 200 or more. So potentially could be sitting on 433 games for Australia.
You would never have been caught ever.
Yeah.
So 2010 was your first appearance in a Commonwealth Games in which you managed to win gold for Australia, which was the first gold medal that you got for the thing. How incredible to win a gold medal for one, especially at a Commonwealth Games, and that feeling of being like, that you're the best in the world, like at your sport.
Yeah, it's very special. And I watched that. We have like a little highlights video. I was actually watching it the other day from India.
Yeah.
Because I still love, watching them back, because you get the same feeling.
Of course.
That tournament was really it was super hot being in India, so that was challenging, especially for me as a goalie. I got to play majority of the games, so that was also cool. And then the way we won, we drew in the final, so we went into shootouts or strokes. So again, that's sort of meant that I had a bit more of a role to play, and I saved the first stroke, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, the tournament itself was just surreal, to be at a Commonwealth Games pretty young with my mates. You can't get much better than that.
No, and like with the shootouts, so for those listeners that don't know, it is basically like a soccer sort of shootout. It becomes one person versus the goalkeeper. So in a shootout, the goalkeeper becomes the most important person on the field, and clearly you were at that point. You ended up winning the gold medal, which was it would have been an amazing feeling anyway. Yeah,
well, we've had we actually have had a lot of major tournaments decided that way. They've changed it now. We do shootouts rather than strokes, so it's a little bit different to still putting that pressure on the goalie. And I love it. I honestly love it. I really look forward to that pressure. And I think it's certainly helped me and helped the girls, because they know that when we get into those moments, they feel they can really trust me and that I'll, do my job, so they can relax and just go and put the ball in the net.
Yeah, and it's very like you said, it's very like isolated sort of position as well. And so when you're up a lot, and then when you're down, you're obviously down. But to be able to be up that high and win the gold medal, but in just that feeling's just unmatched, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick gold medal would feel like, but Com Games is also very special.
Exactly. So then, how different is sort of the Commonwealth Games to the other international competitions that you do? Obviously, thing with Commonwealth Games and Olympian Games is they're more televised and more people around the country can obviously see it, but then there's the other international tournaments. What sort of is different about the Commonwealth and even the Olympic Games compared to the ones that you do that are sort of not behind closed doors, but less televised and less streamed worldwide?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Common Games and Olympics, you're part of an extended Australian team that's own sort of special, I suppose, experience. I'm like you, I just love sport. So I watch, non-stop. Even at the Olympics, we had it on. We had a projector. We put it on every morning. We watched it all day when we weren't training or playing. But then when we go and compete internationally with hockey, occasionally the tournament is paired with the boys. So that's always a bit more atmosphere and a bit more exciting. But generally we're playing, anywhere from no crowd to maybe up to max sort of, lower profile sport. And you don't get, the coverage. It's better now. I'm getting on TV, through some of the subscription and different models. But it's just sort of us. It's just us out there playing. Whereas the hype, the media, the televised, the broadcast, all of those things add a different element, which is all very exciting. But really, as an athlete, you just want to be able to go out there and do your thing and play. And it's definitely a lot easier on the standard hockey tournaments to do that.
Of course. I feel like the nerves would sort of, even like in the later stages of your career, like obviously, as I said, most capped goalkeeper in hockey history, but the nerves would obviously still get to you pretty much no matter what, even in like the lower tournaments and the heavily televised ones. It'd just be a pretty surreal experience anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable at managing that, and still get a little bit nervous, but not really. I have a lot of trust in my preparation and what I can do. But it was super interesting this time with the Olympics, because the fact there was no crowds, I actually think that was our playing ability, our success. I think we played better because there's just not that pressure, that fluctuation in your emotions and your arousal level that you can't really control when you've got, 20,000 people screaming at you. So yeah, this is something in that. I think it's, you want to feel a bit nervous, but that's part of our job as athletes to be able to manage that, even with all the external influences.
Of course. 2016 was your first Olympics, which was in Rio, which is, the Olympics are sort of considered like the pinnacle of like national sport, and I feel like it'd sort of be the same with hockey as well. What does it sort of take to be selected for the Olympics, and how different is the lead up to the Olympics rather than, a lead up to a World Cup or anything like that?
Well, it took me 10 years. That's what it took to get picked in the Olympics. From debuting to the Olympics was 10 full years. So I missed out on 2 different campaigns. And I suppose the biggest difference is we're always exposed to squad scenario where you then get selected. There's 2 differently. They only take 1 goalie, so that's different to other tournaments where they take 2. So obviously narrows down the likelihood. And the other thing, in the lead up to an Olympics, usually we're full-time athletes, so you aren't allowed to work or study. But yeah, I guess I looked at that in '08 and 2012, and I missed out. They were probably two of my worst years of performance, which cost me a spot. And so for 2016, I asked my coach if I could work rather than going into the full-time scenario, because I just felt that was really important to me in my week to give me a bit of perspective. And yeah, I honestly believe that made a big difference in my selection, because I wasn't just thinking about hockey all the time, because I just don't like doing that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I feel like it's a thing where, like with elite sport, you should obviously focus on it, but there needs to be outlets for it and have to be able to do other things that can sort of take your mind off it, so you're not just constantly thinking about it and then stressing over it and making it a bigger deal than it has to be.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same as anything. You put all your mind into work or study, just thinking about that, and things don't go well, I feel like your world's falling apart. So I'm a massive advocate for the balance.
Exactly. And you've definitely got a lot of things that you've balanced it out with, which we'll continue to get through. First off, I've had a few Olympians and Paralympians on the podcast so far, and they've told some stories of the Olympic Village that we are constantly going through. What was the village like also compared to Rio and then Tokyo? Because obviously, there's very different situations in both of them. And have you got any of your own sort of stories about the Olympic Village anyway?
That's what everyone wants. Rio, yes. A couple of things with Rio. I remember everything was quite far away. So I was averaging about 14 kilometres a day walking just to get to the food hall, because you obviously go to the food hall there and back 3 times a day, get to the transport mall, so where all the buses leave from. It was a very big village, and I don't mind walking, but, that's obviously not ideal for an athlete. So I remember that. We did have a couple of the girls that ran into Usain Bolt in his room, so that was a bit unique in Rio.
Wow.
Nothing untoward, but he was on the balcony yelling out, so they got a little invite.
Oh, wow.
And when they told us, we obviously said we need evidence, so they had to send through a few selfies, which was proven, so pretty cool. And then, yeah, Tokyo was really unique again, had a lot of COVID restrictions and things in place that had to be managed, and we were expecting all of that. It was just more, normally you're very much about like mingling and chatting to people and, the athletes, and none of that happened this time. It was, you go to the food hall, you have your meal, sit behind your screens, then you get out of there.
Wow.
There was communal areas, like we could get merchandise. There was sort of like fun activities and stuff. We didn't go to any of those. But it did mean that the Australian team became a lot more united, because our building, our area, we knew was kind of like a safe zone, and it allowed us to kind of interact with other Aussie athletes and really get to know each other. There was a cafe, or we had like a little barista, and so you could hang out there. And yeah, so I think it was actually very special, and I loved, just having those casual conversations with different athletes, while you're waiting for your coffee, or getting your laundry done, or whatever it might be. And hearing their stories, because that's why the Olympics are so special. Everyone's got a pretty unique story.
Yeah, I reckon that sort of unification, I reckon that contributed as well, because we had one of our better performances at Olympics over time, sort of thing. Like we had quite a few gold rushes on a lot of the days and everything like that. I reckon the unification of like as a country together would definitely have helped sort of our own athletes then produce one of our best performances.
Yeah, I agree. I did an interview, or like a talk after the Olympics, and there was a mum on there of one of the athletes, and she said that her daughter's been to 4 Olympics and she's been to the previous 3, the mum has, and obviously couldn't go to this one. And she said her daughter got her best performance at this one, and she was like, oh, I wonder if it's because I wasn't there. She was feeling really bad. But it's like, you just don't know. Like, obviously family that there is great, but for some people it actually is more pressure.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like, I guess that's sort of that constant, like they're watching, and obviously they'll be watching at home anyway, but seeing them like in the actual stadium is a completely different thing to having them watch from a different country anyway. Yeah,
for sure. And that feeling of like, what are they doing? Do I need to see them after the game? All of that stuff. It was just removed. We were there, we play our game or whatever you were doing, compete, and you go back to the village. So it just simplified it, I think.
Exactly. So outside of your hockey career, you've done some incredible things, as I mentioned, sort of up top in your massive resume that I've got. There's a few things you run, which is Stomp Goalkeeping. Can you sort of explain to the listeners what that is and what you do with Stomp?
Yeah, cool. Thanks for the plug.
That's okay.
It's my coaching business. So coach goalies. I've never really done team coaching before, but I absolutely love doing the specialist goalie coaching. and have done face-to-face coaching for many, many years, and got to a point where, because of, we have to live in Perth, so it was really challenging to get out and reach, all the kids and do the actual sessions. So my brother, Matt, he had the idea of putting it online. So we worked together and, put together an online program, also knowing that most goalkeepers don't have a coach. We put together a program where essentially on your own or with the help of someone, mum, dad, brother, sister, teammate, coach, whoever, you could teach yourself. So each of the sessions are, go through a skill or drill and certain explanations and stuff. And it's allowed us to have an online platform where, through a subscription model, you can have sessions that will last you a whole year. And you can basically, work on your craft in your own way. And it's been awesome. We've got members all over the world, and I try and stay very connected so that they will feel like they have access to me and can ask questions. And it's been pretty cool. I still am keen to get back to the face-to-face, but this is the way that we're going as in society, and it's been perfect. Everyone's doing home workouts and training on their own.
Yeah, that is awesome to sort of see, like, you adapt to that and then have people all around the world as collect clients and other people that are working on it. I'll put the link to the website in the podcast link. So if anyone that's listening wants to do that, they can go ahead and jump on it.
I hope to see you signing up too, Jared.
Yes.
Work on your balance.
Oh, that actually is a good idea. It'll probably help me a little bit. Another thing that it is you do, and I mentioned up, is that you're a registered nurse, and you're part of this battle that we've been going in over the past 18 months that is just continuing to plague us down here in Victoria and around the country and around the world. Can you sort of explain some of the things that you've done in the past, 18 months, and the fight that you have sort of done and everything that you've done for our country, at least? Yeah,
look, firstly, massive shout out to all the healthcare workers in Melbourne and Sydney. I'm from Melbourne, so I know that it's I don't know. I can't even imagine, but the state system there is just, so under-supported, and the staff must be also overworked. I saw a picture the other day on a nursing sort of blog that I'm with, and they got people to send in photos of their faces, and the amount of people that have scars and marks all over here from wearing the mask, unbelievable. But congrats to all of them on what they're doing. Keep up the good work. So from my side, working in Perth, we prepared like everyone else did when COVID first hit. We were all worried, clearing out all the ice available, and it didn't really sort of reach us, touch wood, luckily. So at the time I was working on a neuro rehab ward, so mostly stroke and MS. And when we stopped hockey, I picked up as many shifts as I could, but I sort of thought there'd be this massive opening, but, all the nurses kind of stood up and, jumped in and got stuff done. And so I couldn't get any shifts. So I applied for 2 different COVID clinics to do COVID testing, couldn't get a gig there. They were pretty overrun with work, a good thing. But I also just didn't want to sit at home in the middle of a pandemic, not working. So ended up getting a job with a mining company where I'm working now, Mineral Resources.
Really?
And been running their COVID program ever since. So went from a clinical role to a more of a management role, and was looking after 12 testing facilities all over WA, and we were doing mandatory screening of all of our workers before they went to site, which was a huge program because they were all asymptomatic. So it was just so we know that you're going up to the site without COVID, and it's essentially allowed us to keep the economy going and keep WA flowing, if you like. So it's been pretty cool to be a part of it, but I definitely miss the clinical side and the patient side.
Of course. For your efforts through it all, you were recognised as one of 5 Olympians for life, which is a thing they do. I believe every single Olympics, they nominate 5 people. How did it sort of feel to be recognised for this achievement? Can you also sort of explain what the achievement was for and on that global scale?
I've heard of the World Olympians Association. It's a group that is, overarching all of the Olympians around the world. And they gave me a call. It was kind of ironic, the timing. So when they rang me, it was the same day that we were finding out whether or not we were going to Tokyo. So our actual team selection.
Wow. And
they called me and they said, congrats, you've won this award. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. It's amazing. And they're like, and we're going to do the presentation in Tokyo. And I was like, oh, maybe they know something I don't did or whatever. So I was going through all these crazy thoughts. Anyway, I said to them, I was like, look, I actually don't know. And they said, that's fine. We'll probably end up doing it online. But yeah, it was it kept under wraps until the Olympics. So it was announced at the Olympics, and I actually asked them, because it's, this guy was in somewhere in the UK when he rang me, and I was like, how do you even know who I am or what I do? And they said, we have people everywhere and we're always watching. And they just said, what you're doing is pretty special. And, my nursing, the Are You OK mental health advocacy that I've been doing. And so it was an absolute honour. I'm very proud of what I do with hockey, but to have them recognise me and, my contribution to the community and what I do on and off the pitch was very special.
Yeah, and as you spoke about in that with the Are You OK mental advocacy, that's another thing that you do, just to add on top of just all the amazing things that you do. It's just insane.
I like to be busy.
I can tell it's all amazing stuff though. Like, it's stuff that is really helping like the whole world and the country and everything. Do you want to sort of explain what you do with Are You OK Day and Lifeline, and sort of how you have helped over the years that you've played hockey and done everything like that?
Yeah, I'm super passionate about mental health. I got into it many years ago, I think 10 years ago actually, with Are You OK? Just through a friend. They reached out. I hadn't heard of them at the time, but it was pretty early days of Are You OK kicking off. And I just love it. Simple messaging, getting people to connect, build relationships and look after each other. So love the message. And it's something I've tried to implement in my work life, into the hockey roos. And yeah, I feel very proud to have, that I guess charity or group that I can really associate with, and is sort of in line with what I'm trying to do as a person. So yeah, and then Lifeline was more recent. That was an opportunity just to kind of more broaden my perspective on things, because Are You OK is suicide prevention, whereas Lifeline is more at crisis. And that's been a great challenge and another opportunity just to spread the word, spread the love a bit.
Exactly. Recently on sort of Are You OK, the website and everything, you were very candid about some challenges you faced through 2020 and had like tough mental health battles yourself. If you don't mind, obviously explaining sort of your experience with it all and how working with Are You OK and Lifeline sort of helped, with you and help bring in all the things that you've learned and all the things you've done into sort of your own life.
Yeah, it was a tricky time, and the main thing for me was I've never really had my own other than the work, as I said, and sort of prevention and self-care and well-being. But all of a sudden I found myself in a situation where when people were asking me, I wasn't okay. The answer was no. And it was an opportunity to really practice what I preach, and own that and be okay with it. And I had some wonderful supports around me, my family and friends and my teammates, who they knew what to ask. They were brave enough to ask. They, didn't try and solve things for me. They were consistent, some teammates every single day, just checking in and, also seeing psychologists and all of the things that sometimes were maybe a bit of a taboo topic. I was like, well, this is my time, and had to work really hard to get through that. And I did, and it was thanks to the support. And I'd like to think some of the work that I've done in the lead up to help upskill, the people around me, and was very grateful to have that support. And even from Are You OK, like the number of people from the organisation, and they're only small, that would just shoot to say, we're here for you if you need, and you're worthy, and all of those sorts of things. So it was very cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's sort of working in that area as well. You're obviously going to come and find a lot of really amazing people that are going to help you through it all. And so being able to like put yourself out there and say that would have just brought in almost like so much support. And obviously you're very respected among that community and among like all the communities around. So it would have really helped and been able to sort of help your battle at least.
Yeah, and it's so topical. There was people that Simone Biles at the Olympics, like different athletes that are standing up and owning their struggles. And, I commend them. I guess the hard thing is that they also cop a lot of criticism for it, which shows that we've still got a long way to go. But the more people talk about things, hopefully the easier it'll get.
Of course. I will be putting the Are You OK Day website and the Lifeline website and numbers down in the description below for everyone as well. And you'll be able to read a lot of stories. Of course, they'll read a lot of stories about you and all the things that you've done for them. They're all over your website as well, which will be in there, because there's just so much stuff there that people can really learn from. And like, I read it all in the lead up to this, and it was just awesome to see it all. So it was really, really cool.
Thanks, Jared. You've clearly done your research.
I've done a fair bit. Fair to say, this notes document's quite large, I must say. It's a lot of work, but it's good fun, and I know it's like doing this allows me to talk to people that I never thought I would have been able to talk to, and like being able to hear the stories. It's kind of why I made this thing in the first place, was because I like listening to people's stories and like talking to people about their whole careers and their lives and everything like that. And I've just heard some like awesome stuff, and especially with you as well today, it's just like really cool to hear everything.
Thanks, Jared. I think the storytelling element is getting bigger and bigger now too, because people want that. They want the sort of juicy stuff. They want to know the real deal, not just what Instagram shows and not just what the media show.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, doing this, like, it's good for me, but it's also good for people that want to know more about these stars they see on TV. Like, they see you on TV playing hockey for Australia, but then it's also like all that stuff that's in the background and all the things that you do and your life growing up. And it's just a whole different thing, which is exactly why I started in the first place.
Very good. No, keep up the good work.
It was an absolute honor to have you on today. Obviously, a very inspirational story. It's like I said, this whole sort of thing, this exact story is exactly why I want to start the podcast and hear more about people that a lot of people wouldn't have heard from normally, and just being able to like really connect is just something that's awesome. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. And I hope that people get behind your podcast, and it's great. I know you got this, and privilege for me to be on as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.